Okay, so we were discussing about the variational crimes, and uh, we found out that even for very rigorously formulated elements, there can be surprise, sometimes very unpleasant surprises while trying to use the uh, element for our analysis purposes. And we also discussed the reasons. I mean, initially there was not much clarity about what this is, why this is happening. Everything is being done in the correct way. Theoretically, whatever is admissible, we did all that, and still the element performance was not satisfactory. And as a matter of chance, it was found that some of the tricks can actually alleviate the problems, and those tricks seem to go against the common wisdom, conventional wisdom. And therefore, those tricks are now labeled as under the head label of variational crimes, because in one way or the other, if we commit any of these crimes, so to say, we are violating the governing variational principles in some sense. So, for example, using lower order, reduced order integration, so we are underestimating the strain energy of deformation, and by chance it agrees with the problem which was from which it originated, the deformation of four node rectangle under pure flexure. So one point quadrature corresponds to the point where the shear strain is zero. Incidentally, it's a coincidence, very happy coincidence. So if the shear strain is zero, then of course there is no locking happening between the terms, between the different displacement components. So there is no issue of lack of consistency, which was finally, after a very thorough investigation, it was then realized that the problem these elements were not performing well was because of the lack of consistency of approximation. Shear strain should have coupling between both x and y displacement components, and if we do not have those proper coupling in vanishing shear strain constraints, then of course there are going to be problems. And once you introduce, either by using reduced order integration or by using of incompatible modes, suitable incompatible modes, uh, then the problem gets sorted out. I mean, the consistency is restored, but it should not happen that while solving one problem, we land up into a bigger problem, another problem somewhere else, which is very much possible when you are actually uh, trying to live on the proceeds of crime. Crime pays only sometimes, and that too if you are very clever, right? So, in order to uh, find out whether the situation is suitable, or whether the conditions are conducive for committing such a crime, variational crime, one of those variational crimes, and whether you can actually reap benefits of those crimes. And for that, a test was devised, which is called patch test, by Bruce Irons again. And we will discuss the patch test. I mean, if one of those elements which has been developed using these variational crimes, the basic tenets of finite element convergence, which violates any of the basic tenets of finite element convergence, then if that element passes the patch test, then the convergence is assured and the element can be, that gives us some kind of reassurance that element will most likely perform uh, well or behave well. So, as we have seen, many of the enhancements either in the form of additional polynomial terms in the interpolated field, those are the incompatible modes, nodeless using nodeless variables, or in the numerical evaluation of integrals, in, domain integrals in the approximation, they lead to violation of some of the basic tenets of convergence of a finite element solution. And if that is uh, if the basic tenets of convergence are violated, then what guarantees us that such an element will actually lead to acceptable results? And for that purpose, this patch test was proposed to determine if a suggested enhancement will adversely affect the convergence of finite element solution. So if an element fails the patch test, then obviously it is not suitable. If it passes the patch test, then there is a chance that the results will be reliable. Of course, you need to uh, examine the results very, very critically. PatchTest has proved to be a handy tool for designing new elements as well as to test the correctness of computer coding. If all is well, then uh, you can actually commit error in your coding or finite element coding the program. I mean, even one variable here and there, and everything goes uh, bad, right? It may explode on your on your face. So the patch test is also a very handy tool for correctness. If the element is well behaved, element is known to be very well behaved, then patch test can be used for correctness of the coding so that the boundary conditions are applied correctly, the integrations are evaluated correctly, and the solution routine is also working correctly. And in recent times, it has also found a new application area in terms of posteriori error analysis. So, how do we assure convergence? How do we know that an approximation has converged or is converging? Any ideas? How do we assess convergence? For example, of a series. You might have used series expansion for sine theta, cos theta, exponential function e to the power x, and so on. So how do you assess the convergence? Finite element analysis is like a series solution. You refine, I mean, successive refinements of the finite element mesh. They are like adding more and more terms in the series approximation.
Sir, like if added to consecutive iterations will give the same results, like we can say that like the solution is convergent. Two or more than two.
Uh, yeah, but you could actually be converging to the wrong value, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
What happens if your code is wrong and successive refinements or successive series solution, if you are consistently making the same error, then your successive evaluation will of course lead to the same result. So you might incorrectly ascertain that it is correct, your solution is converged, but it might be because of an error, or it might have converged to a wrong result, right? So the correct idea, I mean, the convergence is always ascertained. I mean, when you talk of approximation, goodness of approximation can only be judged against the true solution. What is the exact result, right? And that's how you actually, if you look at it, sine theta, cos theta, you look at, evaluate sine theta and then see the series solution and work out how it is working out, right? So now, the problem here is, I mean, the comparison of approximate result with the analytical result is one thing that can only be done for very simple problems for which analytical solution is known. But for most of the cases where you do a finite element analysis, uh, analytical solution is not known. So there is nothing to compare against. Compare the approximate solution against something that can be deemed as an analytical solution. So what is done is something akin to Fourier Taylor series approximation. What is Taylor series approximation? If you right? Do you remember this Taylor series approximation in the neighborhood of a point x naught?
Yes.
So you can express the function. I mean, there are increasing degrees. I mean, this is constant term function evaluated at x naught. Then this is in terms of linear function in terms of this increment h. Then there is quadratic term in terms of the second power of this increment h, this step length, and then third power and so on. So it is an infinite series, and you can actually get the function behavior as close as desired, depending on the number of terms you retain. So if you truncate it after this one, so this is called first order approximation. Right? Error is of the order of h square. So this is linear approximation, so first order approximation plus second order error. So what is presumed is, if I include this, let's say f x0 plus h x naught plus h square by factorial 2 x naught. This is a better approximation for f of x naught plus h than f right? So you agree with this statement? With this, the error is of the order of h cube. With this, error is of the order of h square. Right? So this is a better degree of better, more accurate than this solution. So what is done in numerical, any numerical analysis, I mean it can be, this is also the basis of adaptive Rangakatta method in time marching schemes. We estimate a higher order approximation and consider that as a closer to the true solution. This higher order estimate is considered to be a closer approximation to true solution, and a lower order approximation is the approximation solution that you are looking at. And the error that you difference between these two is what we call as the error of approximation. Is taken as a measure of the error of approximation. Right? So now what is done is, with patch test, we find a higher degree of convergence. We can find a solution with higher order of error term. There are reasons for doing that. I am not getting into the theoretical basis of how posteriori error analysis is actually done. Suffice it for this discussion for you to know that using the patch of elements, we can estimate the solution in which the error term is of a one order higher than what is computed by using individual element level analysis. And these two results, difference between these two results is what is taken as an measure, an indication of the error in the solution. And then we can find out errors in all elements of the mesh, and then wherever the error is found to be larger than acceptable, then the mesh is refined in that region, and subsequently the analysis is repeated with a refined mesh. So that is how the adaptive finite element analysis is actually conducted. So the basic idea behind patch test is that a good element should be able to solve simple problems exactly, either individually or as components of arbitrary patches. Now what is a patch? As the word suggests, it's a patchwork. So this is a patchwork. What you see here, this is a valid patch of constant strain triangles. One thing that is absolutely essential is that the patch of elements should have at least one interior node, right? And all the elements should be governed by the same differential equation. They should be modeled by the same. I mean, it is not possible for to combine a continuum element with let's say a beam element, or a continuum element with let's say a two-dimensional element with a one-dimensional element, right? So all elements should be of the same type. I mean, as far as the mechanics goes, there can be a assembly of 3-node and 4-node. I mean, as you can see here, it's not necessary that triangular elements can only be combined in a patch of triangular elements only. There can be patches of triangular and quadrilateral elements as well. The only requirement here being all elements should be governed by the same differential equation, same continuum equation, and the there should be at least one node which is in the interior of the domain. That is absolutely essential, right? And this is an invalid patch because this is a mix of two-dimensional and one-dimensional elements. So this patch of elements, this kind of arrangement is not acceptable for the patch test. So, as originally conceived by Bruce Irons, a valid patch comprises a mesh of similar finite elements with at least one interior node which is common to several elements. Right? So, one interior node which is shared by several elements, that is absolutely crucial. In this example, the combination of bars, triangles and quadrilaterals is not admissible. So this bar is a different differential equation, different continuum equation. So this cannot be part of a valid patch for conducting a patch test. Right? So this is not admissible for the purpose of patch test, as the constant strain states of a bar element are different from those of triangle and quadrilateral elements. So there are two versions of the patch test. One is, of course, we impose the displacement field. For example, let's say displacement along x be proportional to coordinate x. So if I start the origin at this point, then all nodes which are at a distance of, let's say, coordinates x, so the displacement along u is equal to the coordinate value, right? So it is essentially linear with respect to x, right? So then, if the displacement of at all the exterior nodes are imposed this boundary condition of constant displacement, this linear displacement is equal to the coordinate of those nodes, x coordinate of those nodes. So what does this mean? This is essentially like imposing the state of constant strain. Epsilon xx is constant in the element. If the displacement u, that is displacement along x, is imposed as linear function of coordinate x, right? So we just say at u is equal to x, ui is equal to xi. Then the displacement is of course linear. Then the strain within the element should be equal to constant strain. And if the displacements are with respect to are linear with respect to xi, so the coordinate, ui is equal to xi. So after imposing this displacement boundary condition, I evaluate what is the displacement at this interior node, right? So the displacement at this interior node should be also equal to coordinate x of this node. X coordinate of this node should be equal to the displacement that we compute by solving the system of equations after imposing this displacement boundary condition. Now this displacement boundary condition can also be applied in for the displacement along y, and also for a combination of the two, but it is usually done one at a time. And if the displacement agrees with this, then of course the constant strain states are being correctly transmitted across the domain, throughout the domain, and the patch will, the elements are said to have passed the test, right? The second one is the force test. So this one, first test is of course the displacement test. Second test is the force test. That is, we apply a constant state of displacement, a state of forces, boundary forces, consistent with the constant state of stress. So uniform stress all over. And then find out what are the uh, external forces, and the patch of elements should be constrained with the minimum constraints possible, right? So that it will it will allow the solution of equations, right? So the elimination of rigid body motion. So whatever minimum constraints are required for elimination of rigid body motion, those constraints can be imposed on the patch of elements, and then the equivalent nodal forces consistent with this constant traction state, constant state of stress. Let's say this is like sigma x is constant here throughout the domain. So whatever are the forces here, they should be applied, and then interior node, uh, the solution should be computed, and the stresses in the element should be computed at the interior of this node, at this particular node, and the result should be consistent with these constant stress conditions, applied constant stress conditions. Now again, this can be applied for constant sigma xx, constant sigma yy, and also for constant shear. Right. So again, repeating that displacement patch test, specify suitable displacements to the exterior nodes of the patch and verify that the patch reproduces exactly the rigid body and constant strain, curvature in case of beams or plates. States at the interior node in the absence of any external force. So for the displacement test, we do not impose any external force whatsoever, and the constant strain conditions should be satisfied. And if all the displacements are of the same type, we make if the imposed displacements are consistent with the rigid body motion, then the rigid body motion should also be predicted. Same displacement should be uh, computed in the interior nodes. So displacement component along x direction is prescribed in proportion to the respective x coordinate at all exterior nodes. The system of equations is solved for the unknown displacement at interior nodes, which must be consistent with the assumed displacement field for the patch test to be passed. The test is repeated for different displacement fields, namely rigid body translations along xy directions, rigid body rotation in xy plane, displacement field proportional to x, and constant epsilon xx, displacement field proportional to y, that is constant epsilon yy, and the displacement field varying linearly with respect to x and y, that would correspond to constant shear strain in xy plane, gamma xy. Then the second one, the force patch test, we apply external forces on exterior nodes which are consistent with the state of constant traction to a minimally constrained patch of elements. Right? So the constraints are only so as to eliminate the rigid body mode so that equation of equilibrium can be solved. Right? So with the forces at the interior nodes set to 0, so there is no force acting on the imposed on the interior node. So the patch equilibrium equation is solved for nodal displacements, and subsequently the stresses are computed. The constant state of stress should be exactly reproduced at any point within the patch. Right? So if the external forces are consistent with constant stress condition, then the constant stress condition should be reproduced in the patch. So it is important to check that the reactions at the constrained degrees of freedom, they should vanish, because the forces at the exterior nodes form a self-equilibrating system of forces. Because it's a constant stress. So if you look at it from the exterior, so there is a pull from left side, there is a pull from the right side. So they too balance each other. Right? So the exterior forces, they are self-equilibrating system of forces. So in that system, in this kind of situation, there should not be any reaction that will be developing at the supports, exterior nodes, right? So that is an important check for enforcing or for assessing this force-based test. So this force-based test is also referred to as the generalized patch test and can be administered to a minimally constrained individual finite element as well. So then there is with this force patch test, there is no need for uh, necessarily conducting the complete patch of elements with interior node and all. A single element can also be subjected to this force-based test, right? Although the displacement-based patch test is the original construction of the patch test as originally proposed, and that still continues to be the gold standard. So that brings us to the end of patch test. Uh, we can take any questions if there are before I start with the dynamics portion or let's say plates and shells. Any questions? Okay, fine. I will stop here. We will start with discussion on patch test in our tomorrow's lecture tomorrow afternoon. Thank you.